welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. I'm Victoria Rubadiri, still continuing on with our theme and discussion on women. This time on empowerment, of course, International Women's Day is coming up on Tuesday. And it's very interesting that this is a third that we are celebrating, or at least observing. Can we celebrate during a pandemic? I don't know. But there's a lot in terms of where we have reached. Have some of the gains that we achieved in the last couple of years been drawn back because of the COVID-19 pandemic? And of course, we know the theme for this year is Break the Bias. I'd like to introduce my panelists very quickly. We have Mercy Ndegwa, a Public Policy Director for East and Horn of Africa at Meta. And we also have Nora Muthoni Mumo, Go Gaga Experiential co-founder and ZURI Awards co-founder as well. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. First, I'd want to get your take on what does that theme, that phrase, break the bias, actually mean to you? I'll start with you, Mercy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here this morning. Good morning, everyone. I think for me, break the bias is all about making sure that you're being very intentional and sensitive about how you look at issues. Yeah. When you're thinking about, for example, now we're speaking about women, are there certain things that are informing your decision making that are biased, maybe from your orientation, from what you've heard about being said about women? Are there certain things that are you're limiting yourself from applying when you're making decisions about different issues, whether it is in offering opportunity, in sharing certain information, in including others around the table that might actually be because of the biases that you might have. And just checking yourself really is what it is about. And for me, that's something I'm constantly thinking about when I'm engaging with different people.
And Muthoni, I mean, what does it mean for you? I know you run ZURI Awards and you're trying to break stereotypes and highlight women who are doing amazing things, but not known as much, well, not much is known about them in terms of their work. But what does break the bias actually mean for you?
Okay, thank you, Victoria. I'm glad to be here today. Breaking the bias is, for me, is everywhere. Really, when you look at it, it starts from the home. Yeah. What biases do we have at home? Is it responsibilities? Do we say that they are male-dominated responsibilities and female-dominated responsibilities? When you go to the workplace, can the women break the ceiling or the glass ceiling? When you look at the different places we go into our communities, how do we include everyone in whatever we are doing? So it's just an inclusivity journey for me. I feel like everyone needs to have an equal opportunity to be able to participate in the different parts of life, yes.
And let's get into some of the empowerment programs, at least that Meta is undertaking with respect to women-owned businesses. We know COVID-19 hit every business across the board, whether it was female-led or male-led, but more so for women. Tell us what Meta realized in that space and during the COVID-19 period, and why it felt businesses, female-led, are so important to support.
Thank you so much for that question, because, you know, it's one of the questions we actually had to ask ourselves as Meta when we were thinking about the pandemic and asking ourselves, how might this have impacted businesses overall? Because we care about especially small businesses. A lot of small businesses are hosted on our platforms, use our platforms for, you know, reaching out to their customers, extending their reach, being informed about similar initiatives or, you know, similar things that others are doing like themselves. And when we thought about it, we actually went ahead to jointly publish a report together with the World Bank and the OECD. And that report was based on research around small businesses and the impact the pandemic had had on them. And we realized that female-led businesses had actually been impacted disproportionately compared to those of men-led businesses, like you've rightly pointed out. But, you know, statistics that were even more shocking were, you know, findings, for example, that would state that the female-led businesses had a higher percentage chance of actually being closed than the male ones, particularly during the time that we had the COVID restrictions. And that for us was a huge concern, and we thought to ourselves, how can we as Meta, a company that is very invested in supporting businesses, help such businesses from shutting down, help them to pivot on online better to be able to continue keeping their doors open. And so based on these findings and others, and based on the passion we've always had as a company on small businesses, we took a number of initiatives. So Meta has, for example, at the highest level, at Sheryl Sandberg's level, our Chief Operating Officer, last year held a virtual tour with a lot of businesses across the region and across the world. And one of the things we were trying to establish through the conversation she was having with businesses is just to understand, to show the support, first of all, of Meta to them, but also to understand what kinds of challenges they'd had. In the case of Kenya, for example, a virtual meeting was held between, for example, Terry Ann Chebet, who's with the Kera Cosmetics, and Grace of Grace Park Ventures, and had an opportunity to speak to Sheryl about their experience on our platforms and how their business had been impacted by COVID. But beyond that, we did run, prior to that actually, earlier in the year, last year, for example, we had an initiative that we called Lead Hers, which spotlighted 19 business leaders that are women to just get a sense of what insights can they be able to share on what they have done well that other women could learn from and could inspire other women to do the same so they can succeed as well. And this also has been very successful in informing a lot of the work that our partners who we work with on the ground in different parts of Africa to share in terms of the lessons they're sharing with businesses that they engage with as they're taking them through the trainings that we offer. And speaking to the training, which is a good segue to that, we offer a training that we call She Means Business, that is very intentionally curated to see how we can equip women with digital skills, pick up digital tools that they can use on how to pivot online better and more confidently. Because I think the challenge we see constantly is women struggling with how do I even put together a catchy post that I can reach out to people, telling them what I do as a person or as a business. How can I put up an ad? How do we then, as a company, help those women be able to feel more confident about doing that on our platforms? But in addition to that, is we've realized that, when it comes to digital tools and skills, it's one thing to give them that, but then if you don't also, give a more comprehensive training around financial literacy, around basics of how do you maintain your business, what are the things to watch out for, basics around financial literacy have also been incorporated in the training. And so, as you will see in the cooperation, for example, in the collaboration we have today with Mudhoni's company, in launching, having rather the Gala Awards dinner tonight, one of the things we're doing is to just make sure that through that platform today that we can be able to speak about women businesses that have been able to achieve some of this success, maybe of their businesses, given the training that they've had from our programs, the She Means Business program that we have done also with a partner on the ground called Her Hustle. So things like that are things that we're very passionate about as a business, and we continue to see how we can collaborate on the local level with different organizations like hers and like Her Hustle to extend that awareness around businesses and how they can be done better using our platforms and different technologies.
Right. Mudhoni, we can say, each year that we celebrate International Women's Day, we look at the progress made so far, but there's a lot of complaints that we're not progressing fast enough. When you're still looking at issues like the wage gap, for instance, women in leadership, there are certain areas women are not cracking still. And when you look at some of the existing barriers, how much of it is maybe institutional barriers, maybe how workplaces are structured, or maybe women lacking the confidence to apply for that promotion, for instance. What is more of a barrier, or do you think they kind of play evenly when it comes to stopping women from moving forward?
Okay, thank you for that question. In my opinion, I believe that the opportunities are there for all of us. I remember last week I had a conversation with my sister-in-law, and I was telling her, how many jobs have you applied for? And we went through LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, not Facebook. LinkedIn, because we're looking at business, at jobs. And we opened one, and she said, oh, I saw this one, and I didn't qualify for this and that and that. So I said, believe it or not, I ran ZURI Awards, and even a man applied for ZURI Awards. Wow. So if you look at it, men, I don't know if it's culture, something that's in our culture, that women look at the shortcomings instead of what they have within that space. For example, I've done a master's, they asked for master's, but they said someone with some skill that I don't necessarily have. So we don't move to the next level. For me, I feel like we need to grab these opportunities because they are there. It's not that they're not there. It's just that we have to go out of our space, a safe space, and agree and decide to take the opportunities that have been presented to us as women. So yes, it could be that there are not too many opportunities, but also the opportunities that are already presented, we must be able to grab them. We can't just sit down and be compliant and complacent and say, it's okay, I don't have this, so it's okay. Yeah. And also, one of the nominees I was with last week in the radio station, I also explained to her, right now you told us that you do some farming and you make it sound very little. You have a whole acre. Trust me, a dude with an acre like this much will sing as if he's a large-scale owner of a farm. Right. But you with an acre want to bring it down. You want to humble yourself. Humility is good, but also another lesson I learned through some of the leadership courses I've gone through is that you have to speak up for people to hear you. Yes.
No, absolutely. You know, Mercy, let's talk about women in leadership. You know, you mentioned Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Meta now, and, you know, we know she's been a huge champion for gender equality. But, you know, let's practically speak about how we get more women into leadership. And we know when we don't have representation of females in those upper echelons of companies in corporate or in politics, you know, it has an impact on culture. It has an impact on direction and policies and how women kind of live out their lives because it's not a conducive environment for them. How do we get more women in that pipeline? You know, and that's really how it starts. You know, if they are too afraid to apply for their promotion because they feel I don't have the qualifications, what capacity building is needed, is necessary to see more women go after those positions?
I would speak from a personal perspective and say that for me, because I've been in that same space where I have seen myself play small in places where I felt like I merited to actually be present in those spaces. I should have claimed them more boldly. And I've had to learn over time to be, what's the word I'd use, to be confident about what I have and to show myself up in terms of my confidence, in asserting myself more confidently in those spaces where on merit, I needed to just step up. But when it comes to, for example, how we look at it from a meta perspective, because the question you're raising is one of diversity that's really important, is one of the things we're doing as a company is saying to ourselves, if you look at our mission, for example, which is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together, we feel that using platforms such as ours, women automatically are given an equal voice and an equal platform like everybody else to be able to articulate their voice, to come and show up their businesses, to come and show themselves up in ways that their strengths, whatever it is that you want to present to the world, you have a platform and spaces to be able to do that. And that's across the variety of platforms that we have, you know, on Facebook, on Instagram, on WhatsApp Messenger, and all these places. And it is no different across the world. So the fact that these platforms are globally available means that if you can be able to speak up and show what it is that you can showcase on our platforms, you have a global audience already automatically. And I think those are some of the things we pride ourselves in, the fact that you have an access to the rest of the world through using some of our platforms. And so programs, for example, like you know, She Means Business, are meant to equip women to be able to confidently be able to come and do that on our platforms. You know, what is it that makes you shy away from showing up in the different spaces that you need to be able to claim? And when we arm you with those tools, you're more confident in saying, actually, why can't I put up my business? I'm good at consulting, I'm good at training on language, I'm good at counseling, I'm good at different things. How is my business presented on social media, on our platforms? Is it possible for me to pick up these skills that I'm getting from this program, for example, and do better in how I showcase my work and art? And I think when we have that empowerment of women and just giving them that kind of support, which is one of the things we pride ourselves in, like I was talking about earlier, I see more women stepping up with confidence in saying, nothing can inhibit me. And I feel like those are some of the spaces. And once you have that confidence built into people, especially in regards to how can I digitally represent myself, because as you know from different researches everywhere, there's a huge digital divide generally, but then again, disproportionately, women seem to be shy when it comes to how they show up on digital platforms. And for us, being able to upskill them on tools that help them to be more confident digitally also means that they're likely then to pay it forward to others, because once you know, as women usually are, very supportive of one another, you find that they will then automatically share with a friend and say, oh, did you know that, now my business is on Instagram? Or another woman will ask them, you're on Instagram, how is it that you do it on Instagram so well? I would like to also be able to put up my product. And so they continue to share and pass it forward. And that paying it forward also helps to just create more women that are able to step up more confidently. So I feel that through platforms such as ours and digital skills, for me, I think I've just always been super passionate about digital tools, and I see how those specifically can break so many barriers if you upskill yourselves. And so encouraging all women to think and consider themselves from that perspective of what is it I can do different if I could pick up more digital skills and tools. And all of these resources are available to you similarly across. So I'd say, do that.
Certainly. And Muthoni, I want to draw back to something you had said earlier when you talked about what break the bias actually means for you, and you said, it starts in the home. Women are seen as the default caregivers. And that kind of brings in that whole issue of, I hate the phrase, but work-life balance. And I know Sheryl Sandberg said, I like to rebrand it to work-life integration, right? And trying to make it work for you. How do women kind of get that? Because, it's like a second job, if you will, if you are a working mother.
Yes.
And I remember a very interesting quote where someone said, women are losing custody of their ambition when they become mothers. And I thought, ouch. That's very harsh, but is that the reality for most women, or can you have the best of both worlds?
Okay. Thank you. That's a demon I fight with every day, because I'm a mother of 3 and I run 3 businesses. It's hectic. It's not a joke. But what I've come to realize is that you have to build support systems around you. Not everyone has the privilege to do that, because if, for example, you cannot hire a live-in help to help you when you're at work, then you cannot leave your child at home. There are women who don't have that capacity, who do not have that privilege to be able to hire a live-in help. Notwithstanding, there's also the society that feels like, why are you not at home at 4 o'clock and the kids have come back from school? Sometimes you can't. And it is a really big challenge that most of us women, especially those who are trying to achieve greater things in our career, have to go through, because now it is, how many times can I pick my kids from school? When I pick them from school, I have really quality time of finding out what happened in school. So what other things can I do with them that allow me to spend more quality time than in the house? Because sometimes when you're in the house, you don't really quite spend quality time. It's, oh, get your homework, pick your bag, stop doing that, move this there. It's not even quality time if you really think about it. So possibly that more drive from the school to home might be the only time that you have the serious quality time to find out, how are you really, my baby, So also, the fact that you have to build other people to help you move forward, because even for women, it's really difficult to let go of things. I've also struggled with that. So you want to make sure everything is running in a certain way, because that's how you're engineered to think. So even that fact that at the workplace, you're able to delegate some of the responsibilities that would otherwise take up some extra time that you wouldn't. And also learning how to say no, because that's another big thing. You have a business and somebody says, can we meet at 9 p.m.? 9 p.m. you want to, 7 is kids eating time, or 6:30. You're already in your head, you're calculating maths, and you're like, okay, my gosh, if I meet you at 9, that means I cannot do these things that I had intended to do. So also telling someone that, I'm sorry, I cannot meet you at that time. It's a very difficult conversation, but we need to also figure out how to have those conversations. So it's very holistic, and also I personally have a very great husband. My husband really steps in a great way. And I don't know if everyone has the privilege of having such a husband. Yeah, but if your partner can also come in and step in and help you out, that would be great, because I believe that we all build this community. And also, you can't discount the fact that there are also other people around your lives, your parents, the neighbor. You just make sure that the environment is conducive enough for you to feel safe when you're not there. Yeah, so it's tough, and also technology has helped. You can make a call. You can make a call and say hi.
Zoom has transformed how we communicate. For a very long time.
Yes.
But as we wrap up, just a final comment from both of you in terms of, you know, what women can kind of look forward to. COVID-19 was a huge disruption. You know, it affected so much in life, in work, and just how we kind of interact with each other. And we've seen economies are trying to build back, governments are trying to build back. How do women build back, you know, in terms of just some of the drawbacks COVID-19 caused in their lives? I'll start with you, Mercy, and then finish with you, Mbononi.
I can't emphasize enough the importance of picking up digital tools, because I feel, like I said earlier, that there's so many barriers one would break just from being empowered in how you use technologies and using platforms, for example, like ours. I was talking earlier about, you know, a program like, you know, She Means Business that we run. It's curated specifically with the woman in mind. And I think when one picks up skills like that, and you can find out more about that information regarding how to enroll for such programs. Again, like I said, our partner is Her Hustle. You can look them up. They're Kenyan. They're based here, and find out more information about how you can enroll for such opportunities. But then just learning how to use those tools to be able to articulate yourself, to place your voice out there with the rest of others on platforms such as those. You have access automatically to global audiences, literally, by being in some of these global platforms. I think that's like a really empowering thing to think about. Upskilling yourself and using and leveraging digital tools to vocalize better and to be able to show up better, to have a better social media presence would really be empowering for anyone in whatever trade or art that they are in. And I think that automatically will make a lot of change or difference, and has a huge impact on different businesses, especially those of women. Yeah.
Okay, let me speak from the point of view of ZURI. So as ZURI Awards, we've been doing this for 6 years, and we realized that there was really, COVID really affected the women who we were working with. And last year, we got the chance to sit down and just reflect on how much more we can do for them. And this brought life to the ZURI Foundation, which is what's hosting ZURI at the moment. So we realized that these women need constant assistance, from the ones who made it as nominees to the ones who didn't, because they are doing something that's changing their communities. And hence why we created the foundation, where we can bring in partners like Meta and EABL and all the other partners that we can bring on board to be able to do something for women in a woman-led platform. So ZURI Foundation essentially will allow for these women and others to be able to access all the training that they require, like the leadership trainings that I've got that have allowed me to be able to do some of the things I wouldn't have previously done, things that are to do with financial literacy, digital skills, or anything else that might be a hindrance for this woman to move to the next level. And also the fact that we are showcasing the stories that these women have allows the world to see what they're doing. And it even gives that extra confidence that this woman would never have had if she just kept at home, and she would be like, okay, I have done, and there's no one to see what she's done or see how it has impacted other people. So even just allowing people to have a voice and a platform where their voice can be heard. So that's something we are taking very seriously, and it's key for us. So we look forward to having more women being part of the ZURI Foundation and have them have their voices heard, and have many more partners who will work with us to ensure that they get the soft skills that they require to move ahead. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mudhoni and Mercy. That's all the time we have. But keep the conversation going on social media. # Daybreak. Happy International Women's Day as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And looking forward to hosting ZURI Awards later tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Always a joy for me. All right, and that does it for this particular segment of Daybreak. DJ T-Boy and Willis Araburu standing by in the next hour. Take a short break. We'll be back. Bye for now.